Call this meeting for the October regular scheduled meeting for the Harrison Fire and Pension Fund. If the clerk will call the roll, please.
Fred Spry,
Here.
Gilbert Neal,
Here.
Harry Sekanic,
Here.
Bill Hankins,
Here.
and the mayor said he is on his way, but you have a quorum nonetheless.
Okay. You have before you the minutes of our last meeting. Is there any corrections or revisions that need to be made on the minutes? If none, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes as written?
Make a motion, we accept.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. The next order of business will be for the paying of the parishioners for the next 3 months, 4 months. We'll have a motion to that effect.
Now I make a motion, we pay the pensioners.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion passes. On future business, or I guess we have any old business that anybody knows of? Or this may be, I guess, kind of part of old business. I know I'm probably the only one here that actually lives in the city limits, but I encourage everybody to know to help spread the word on getting our millage passed in this upcoming election. Remind you, it's not an increase. All it is just a to keep the millage that we have, your taxes won't go up. In fact, I looked at my property taxes when I paid them the other day, and on my place and what I have, I think for the fire department pension was like $5.60 or something like that. So we're not talking a whole lot of money, but it basically pays, our pension for about half a year. So I encourage you, if you know anybody that does live in the city limits, please encourage people to vote for it. Does anybody have any other new business?
Gary, do you think that that's doable? There's enough support for it, or do you?
I've not heard a lot one way or the other, just to be honest with you. I used, some people, but I've been trying to get out a little bit and talk to people.
Yeah.
I've explained to people, what it entails and what will happen if we, if we go defunct and go to Lofty, it's gonna hurt the city. Because I know when the police department, they only had a few people that had a lot of money, and it still cost the city, what was it, 250,000? Something like. Well, and I don't know what it'll cost us, so, and personally, I like, hopefully we can always retain control, but, we run out of money, there's nothing else we're gonna be able to do. And I don't know what happens. I don't know Lofty good enough I guess I'll be studying a lot on Lofty if we ever get to that point. But hopefully, the fire department has always been, the people of Harrison has always supported the fire department really well. And so I'm really hopeful.
Good.
Does anybody else have any other business? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, do you need a podium?
So, yes.
Liz Torgerson, I live here in the city of Harrison. Can you explain a little bit more about this, the millage, the tax?
Sure.
Because I would help get the word out.
Okay. Sure. What the deal is we've always put we had a vote, we've had several votes actually to bring the millage to 1 mill. That's the most we can do. We've always put we've had a 10-year sunset clause on it, and that clause it's coming up. Basically, if we don't have the full mill, it goes to 0.4 of a mill. And be honest with you, 0.4 of a mill would probably only get us through maybe the first 3 to 4 months of the year. Basically, our millage, for the most part, our millage pays for about half the year or close to it, somewhere in there. And then our investments pay for the next 6 months. And we pretty well just kind of break even. We just kind of float along. We've had a couple increases, but not much, and it's by percent. We don't get like a cost of living increase or anything like that. It's not how our pension system works. We're on what's called the old pension system. And in 1980, I believe that's right, 1980, wasn't it? I think it
83.
was 83. Lofty took over all because there's a lot of the pension systems, the old pension systems were not very financial. So now when Lofty come along, basically all the cities started their retirement funds, they started paying into the state. The state has a big pool and it's all state driven. And I'm not an expert on Lofty and how all it works because I'm not on it. I just know that it's kind of similar to ours. I think they have to work for full benefits for 28 years and I'm, and there's some differences, but anyway, and a lot of the systems like us are gone because they went belly up. This group of, well, just, we have always tried very hard in our pension board to be really good stewards with our money and have worked really hard in keeping our pension, together. And one of the ways we've been able to do that is to have this one mill. I will show, of course, I don't live in a multi-million-dollar home, but my property taxes for the one mill for my house, I live up in Eagle Heights, my house is, I think it is $5.63 went to the fireman's pension. If I didn't have it, I think it'd go down to like $2 and something. I don't know the exact amount, but we're not talking about, would we get about 140,000? Somewhere in there. We get about $140,000 a year.
Actually, more than that.
Oh, is it a little more than that?
Mhm.
I couldn't remember what it.
In 2023, you got, $248,000.
Okay, we did a lot better than I thought we did.
It's gone up for at least a 10-year period, it's gone up, and we can look
Yeah.
at that when we get.
Yeah, but we have 17 people still active on the plan. Both retired firefighters and widows. Our widows are also, we have, how many widows do we have on now? Three? Three or four?
You have 11 retirees, 4 disabled, and 2 survivors.
2 survivors, and the survivors are the widow or widower. So, and we don't draw big checks, trust me. And our other problem is, and this is really kind of terrible, but there's nothing we can do about this, is even though most all of us sitting up here worked jobs on their days off from the fire department and paid into Social Security, but because we have this other pension, Social Security, my Social Security check is after I pay Medicare is like $290. So, so that's, I depend on this and it's getting tougher and tougher as time goes on, but that's why we really need to just continue on with our full mill. Like I said, it's not an increase in
That's what I was gonna ask.
at all.
Could be any increase.
All it is whatever you're paying now is.
Across the board, like
what
it was last year.
Yeah, the only way it'll increase is if your property values go up.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That makes sense.
But as far as there is no, added tax. I mean, it's the same as what it is right now. It's just
Okay.
a continuation of the same tax that we have.
Okay, cool. And that's what I wanted to get some clarification, because I'll put the word out just to make sure. And advise people, this is not an increase.
No.
The same thing you've been paid into.
And I encourage people to look at their property tax statements. It'll say on their tax, fireman's pension. And I think most people are gonna look at it and go,
When I
Yeah.
first. purchased
really?
my-
That's it?
Yeah, when I first purchased my home, I was like, what? I mean, had no clue, but
But,
you up to speed now.
but yeah, so do you have any other questions?
No, that was it. I just wanted a little bit better explanation. That's perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, well, we're glad that, be honest with you, glad you're here and willing to take the time and spread the word, Well, thank you very much.
Hey, Harry, James.
Do what?
What's that? What?
I didn't say
I think
anything.
James asked a question. Based.
Oh, James, question.
Hey, one thing you might add to that also is that the city has to pay into lot fee from city funds also, where the millage comes directly to our pension system, where the city has to pay into the lot fee. So anybody that's drawing lot fee benefits, the city still has to pay part of their retirement.
Yeah, like I say, I know it's not a good thing for the city if we get taken over by lobby.
We know that now through experience.
So, thank you, James. Molly, do you got anything to add?
Always. So I've been trying to get the word out on Facebook, and Instagram on to my social media people, just to ask people to vote for it. I feel if you don't ask people to vote for it, then they don't know how to vote. Also, there is some national legislation on the WEP, that Harry mentioned about deducting our Social Security checks because of this pension. They're trying to do away with that. So I've been following that and reached out to Rick Crawford, the congressman, about on behalf of, the retirees on this fire pension, that we need that and to vote for that. So hopefully we'll get some relief from that soon.
What,
Thank you.
Molly, this is James.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed on that was it was a bipartisan. They had 200 and some odd co-sponsors, but there was not a co-sponsor from any of our legislators in Arkansas.
Yeah, you can go on there and see. And I think they're gonna have is that the one where they're gonna have an election after a vote on that bill after the general election. So hopefully in November. It's part of the Social Security Acts and things, so it's on the radar, it's out there.
Well, it's been, that piece of legislation's been filed, I think, for the last 10 years or more. And I think it's further along this time than it has ever been.
Yeah, I think it's getting a little farther, so fingers crossed. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything? If not, I'll turn the meeting over to Ms. Carr.
Okay, thank you all. That was a good discussion of your millage and how it works with your plan. And thank you for the guests that are here. And what we'll do now is we'll have an update on the account of how much is coming in, how much is going out, what it's made. And we do this, we have meetings like this 3 times a year. My name is Carrie Carr, ARIA Wealth Management. I've worked with this plan, 15 years now. And Harry's right. We try to stay within the guardrails of making the millage and our investment returns work for us so that we can continue to pay benefits and still grow. Because we do have such a large population, 17 is a large population on this plan. And there are about 30 or so plans that are still local. We call this plan local because it has not consolidated with lot fee. So it's still considered a local plan. And so they meet 3 times a year and we talk about our investments, talk about items like the millage. And this group through the years has been very vigilant about keeping their funds intact and understanding everything that goes along with it. And I'll also say that these local plans, they are governed by a board and that meets twice a year in Little Rock called the Pension Review Board. And they are the ones that dictate the laws. Well, there are already laws, but they govern these plans to keep them, to make sure that they're all solvent, and other things that go along it through the year that affect these plans. So they meet twice a year. That next meeting is coming up in December. And I always watch to see what's on the agenda. And if something is alarming, then I reach out to these plans that I work with. I work with about 20 or so of these plans.
And we're 80% of actuary.
We'll look at that. You're about 70.
So,
So it has gone up in 1 year when we'll look at that.
and the other thing is, see, we're not actuarially sound. So, yeah, we're still in the hole. So,
Well, what that means is that the assets and the liabilities match up to make them 70% fully 70% funded. And that's not uncommon. In fact, that's actually pretty good. If you look at those 30 or so plans, some of them may be more, but I think it's also because we do have a large population that receives benefits. But they do have a quite nice amount of assets, which we'll look at here in just a second. All right, I'm gonna pass these down. How many do we have? 5 people here. I'll go give one to James. Jordan, would you mind doing that here?
Yeah, I'll give James one.
Okay, so this front page, we always follow a similar format. This front page.
Did I give you, James, did I give you mine?
Oh, okay. You know that you can always reach out to me there on the bottom. There's where my office is in Little Rock, email, phone numbers if you ever need me. These members are all on direct deposit through Charles Schwab, so I also monitor that to make sure that those are all go through, and if they have any changes.
I'm gonna interrupt you. I'm glad you said that. Just to let everybody know, here this last week, I guess in the past, the city is always like on the property, cut checks and stuff to
For millage.
the millage and stuff. And now it's, instead of doing that, they're doing direct deposit. Just let everybody know. Nothing's
Much
changed.
easier.
Nothing's changed. They're just not writing checks, right? That's correct.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean.
No, that's fine. No,
Like
that's
what you
great.
said, when you said that,
Yeah.
it just reminded me of just let everybody know.
Right, yeah, mailing checks direct deposit is always much easier and smoother, so I'm glad that they decided to do that. That's from the county, when the county distributes. They're doing a direct deposit. Okay, so you can always reach out to me. And always come visiting here in October. I got to see some pretty trees and some cute cows.
And some cute.
I always like the drive. Okay, then turn the page, and this is an important page. This is the performance view of a certain time period. So look in the top left, we are looking at all of 2024 through the end of September. So top right started the year with $4,115,042 and change. So 4.1 million, which is, we are at some of the highs because of the markets have been buoyed. Then we look at your net distribution. Net distribution is $211,136. So that is what this fund is paying out to the retirees.
But that's just for the first 3 quarters.
Right, just through September. And then that also is taking into account any contributions from millage that happen through the year, but we know that that mainly takes place at the end of the year, right? The millage mainly comes at the end. Then the account is appreciated about $465,000. Income from our securities at almost $70,000. There's my management fee of about $28,000. Okay, then we ended September at 4.406. So we went from 4.11 to 4.4, which is great. And that's an investment gain dollar wise of $500,000, which is wonderful to see. Then we can look at your percentages of how you've performed over time periods in percentages. So inception, you've achieved an 8.25% return each year. 8.25, yes, each year, which is great since we started with Charles Schwab back in 2011. So that's very, very strong when the relative index has only achieved a 5.7 return. So again, 8.25 per year. Looking back over the last 12 months, which we have had a great, 2023 and 2024, much better than 2022. Over the last 12 months, a 21% rate of return, and then year to date, about 12.5. And this is after fees have been taken out. These are your real percentages and the real dollar amount of investment gain. So $500,000 we've gained in 9 months, and we achieved it over 8% each year. Okay, turn the page. These are the pages from the Charles Schwab statement. And again, that's the custodian. That's where their assets are held. They also function as the distributor of monthly benefits. Okay, there's the number. I just went over there toward the middle of the page. We ended September with 4.406 million. And you can see we have a pretty simple approach to how we do things. We have 3 basic asset types. We have cash, bond funds, and equity funds. And this group decides the allocation that they want. We have a general investment policy statement, and they are a little bit heavier than 50% in equities, and that has really served them well. And we'll look at that a little closer, but think of this account as being about 4.4 million with cash, bond funds, and equity funds. Okay, page 4, far right, this is the transaction page. Just what has happened through the year, any deposits, dividends, withdrawals. So you can see we've had a deposit, so we can tell how much we've collected in millage so far. We've collected the $173,000 so far. I did have to, so, Harry mentioned this at the beginning, we do have to rely on our investment income, which is, so there I had to sell something in order to make us have some more liquid for benefits. Then we have your dividends, about almost $70,000 has hit just for holding your securities through September. There's the total withdrawal has been $388,000 through September, and that's for your benefits. Then there's the fee, the management fee that my firm collects. Okay, that's page 4. Page 5 is the cash that we have accumulated through dividends, and of course, by selling what we have to. So we are sitting on about $75,000 in cash. Then we start listing your bond or income oriented funds. This is page 5. Start with Franklin convertible, slide to the middle. This is your largest position, about 1.45 million, and it's about 33% of your total portfolio. Nice gain there since inception. We have your floating rate fund, about $295,000 or 7% of your total. We have your strategic income fund, about $312,000 or 7% of the total. You flip the page 6, and these are your growth-oriented funds or your equity funds. First is JP Morgan Equity Income, about $794,000, 18% of your total. And you have your international fund, about $318,000, 7%. You have your preferreds, about $386,000, 9%. And then the superstar here is the T. Rowe Price Growth Manager, about $771,000 in market value, and that's 18% of your total. And that has had a gain of over $500,000 since inception. So I mentioned at the top of the meeting, we've had a very good run for growth stocks after the terrible year of 2022. Okay, so those are your funds we have. So we have cash, bond funds, equity funds. Page 7, you can see where I just had to sell in September, which is common to sell to have some liquidity for benefit payments. Then we start listing the payments going out to each retiree, starting at the bottom of page 7. Flip to page 8. So for a month, the total going out to the retirees is $38,000, $38,597 and change. So about $38,500 is going out per month. Then we collect dividends just simply by holding your securities, and that accumulates. And so in September, we made a little over $12,000. So we rely on that. Any questions about the statement pages? This group is very good about.
I've got a question.
Yes. Sure.
I know 20-something years ago, state passed a law that said that because we don't get a cost of living with it, we got a separate check in August for the thing. Is that still in place, and how's that check, or is that check made, or is it what's done with it?
Yes. Yes, good question. That is called future supplement. And every retiree in the state of Arkansas receives the same amount, depending on if you're a paid retiree or a volunteer. And so actually I do have those amounts. So for 2023, the paid amount was $2,326 and change. So that should have hit as a separate.
You should have already got that.
Yes, that came in August.
You should have got that in August, did you not?
Well,
You might just statement.
Since it's direct deposit, I was just wondering how it was listed.
It should be, it's separate from, you should have got your pension check, and you should got a separate check for that. And it's not from the, I guess it comes from the state. Where's that come from? How's it?
Right, so that is the
That come
DFNA,
from us.
right, the DFNA distributes that to each plan. And then because Charles Schwab is your custodian, they just, I make it to where it deposits to you. So the city, gives me that. And then I distribute it to you all. So every year it's about that amount. It's in the 2,000 range, and it's called future supplement. And yes, that has not changed. By that, I mean, you've gotten that every year and you'll continue to. But that amount was about $2,300. And if you would James, look at your statement when you have time, and it should have hit in August as a separate payment.
Okay, that was my question, is how's it, it's a separate payment in August, so I'll go back and double check that. Thank you.
Sure. Good
I
question.
think one of the confusion things this year was that it hit just about the same time our regular monthly payment came out. So you want to check that.
But it should be a separate line item on your statement. They won't be together. Or shouldn't be.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, these next few pages are the funds themselves as a single sheet or sheets that we delve a little bit into what each of those funds we just named does and how it's performing. And I like to put them in order from your more conservative income funds that are more short-term to the more medium-term bond funds to the pure growth funds. And I'm about to show you some pages that have a lot of numbers on them. But we really like to pay attention to performance for years and what their holdings are and just what does these funds do? So this first one is called Loomis Cells Senior Floating Rate. This is your shortest term fund. It's actually a fund based on bank loans. So bank loans are securitized. And these actually reset about every 6 months. So as we have seen interest rates change, these also can stay ahead of it. So this is your shortest term fund. We have about 7% here. If you I hand wrote that so you don't have to flip back. You have about 7% of your funds. The yield on this is very good. It's our highest. It's over 9%. So that means that we are collecting 9% just for holding this fund. It's, think about a CD, wouldn't be anywhere close to that. Now, this is not a CD because it is a security. It changes market value, and so it changes yield, but we can count on a yield, and right now it is high. It's 9%. Slide down from that, and you can see what year to date it's achieved about 6.5%. 2023 was about 12%. See, there's 2022. We're going to see a lot of negatives for 2022. Keep sliding down, and really we like to monitor these on, a 1 year, 5 year, 10-year basis. So keep sliding down to the bottom. The 10-year number on this is almost 4% that we've achieved for the last 10 years, which, seems low, but remember, we've been in a very low yield environment for 20 years now almost. Remember back to 08 and 09.
Paying
Right.
0.01% or something like that. It's almost like nothing.
So, we have come up from that some, but that 10-year number has a lot of time where we were not yielding much at all. So the 10-year number, we've been getting about 4% here, and then the 1 year number, we've been over the last 12 months gotten over 9%. Okay. So that's the first fund. That's your shortest term fund. Then we start getting a little more moderate term bond funds. The next is Thornburg Strategic Income. It has about 7% allocated here. So slide down, you can see the last 4 years, but let's also look at the very bottom. The 10-year number here is pretty similar, about 4%, in 15 years, about 5%. But again, we've made a lot of achievement the last 1 year or trailing 12 months at about 10%. So right. And if you flip the page, it tells us a little more about this fund. It's all fixed income, which we would assume from the name, it's income or bonds. Slide down the duration. So it's more moderate. So that first fund was about 6 months. This is actually about 4 years. So that's a more moderate term. Then what it's composed of is there in the middle mainly governments, corporates, and securitized. So usually that is mortgage-backed security. So governments, corporates, and securitized positions all as a collection over about a 4-year period of when they mature. So we're getting a little more out, but the coupon on this is a lot less than that first one. You know, the first one we were getting 9%. This one we're getting about 4.5. And that's common, you know, we like to ladder out our holdings. We just can't put everything in that 9%, right? So we have about 7% here in your strategic fund. Keep going. We've had this fund a long time, the principal preferreds. We've had these back to the beginning to 2008. It's when we really shifted into this. We have about 9% here. Slide down. You can look at the last 4 years. So year to date, gosh, almost 10%, which is great. And look at the 1-year number. Wow, this is the bottom of the page. Over the last 12 months, we've gotten 17% here. So we've really had a rally in preferreds over the last 12 months. 15-year number on this is about 6.5. So what the job of this fund is, financial companies issue preferred securities. Preferreds really are their own asset type. If you want to kind of dig deeper with me, so preferreds on the securitization ladder. So say a company were to go, to default, it would need to pay shareholders back. It would pay bondholders back first, then it would pay preferred stockholders, which is this, and then it would pay back their common stock. So holders. So that's the ladder of securitization. And so this is the middle slice that I was just telling you about, preferreds. And if you flip the page, these are mainly financial companies that issue these. In the bottom left, and you can see some of the yields on these as high as in the 7s. And so as a collection, this is yielding, they're in the middle of the page, almost 7%, which is very good. We have been used to this fund being quite a bit lower for the last 4 or 5 years. And really it has rallied this year, mainly because of interest rate news. And so this duration is also fairly moderate, about 4 years. Okay, so we need this fund for income. For that coupon or interest rate, we're getting almost 7% here. Okay. Now, next we have your convertibles. Convertibles are also their own asset type. This is our largest position, about 33%. Slide down to my green highlights, and year to date, we've gotten almost 11% here. Terrible 2022, like so many others. Then the 1-year number is great, almost over 20% that we've gotten here. And then the 15-year number gotten over 11% a year here for the last 15 years. And we've held this back to 2008 too. So convertibles are their own type of asset too. It's considered an income fund, but we can participate in the growth of a lot of or high growth companies that these securities are based on. So if you flip the page, you can see some of these holdings. And mostly we'll see software companies, energy. I'll tell you, we have this healthcare, but these are just high growth companies, mainly software. Again, software in 2024 is a utility. Think about it. Our nation and world cannot run without software. And that's really what these are based on. Alibaba, that's interesting. That is, that's the Chinese Amazon. Apollo, that's a private equity company that buys up a lot of distressed sectors. CenterPoint Energy, Axon, they do, they do a lot of security software. So the yield on this is quite low, but they're in the bottom right, but these high growth companies have really outperformed, in 2023, 24, especially 24 with interest rates going up. I'm sorry, interest rates coming down slightly. Next page, this is your international manager. You have about 7% here. Slide down to the highlights. Year to date, we're up 14% here. Keep going down. Over the last 12 months, 24%, which is great. 10-year number about 9%. And so as the name suggests, these are companies outside of US. Turn the page, mainly in these sectors: materials, financial, industrials, technology. Slide down, those are the top 10 holdings. You'll see again a lot of software, electronics, semiconductors. That's how our world works on those type of products. So that those companies have led to to us getting 24% the last 12 months. So that's a big number for international. Okay, next page. This is your value manager. So think of value as dividend payers. So US companies that pay dividends, reliable dividends, and this manager looks for the reliable dividends at least 2% or more. So we have about 18% here. Slide down, year to date, we're up 16% here. Gosh, trailing 12 months, 25%. 10-year, about 10.5. Next page, these would be the bottom left, the top 10 holdings. So think of US companies that pay a dividend. United Health, ConocoPhillips, Bank of America, Chevron. So yeah. So these are just your largest US companies that pay a dividend. That's really the marker of this fund. Industrials, financials, healthcare. All right, then the next page are not necessarily dividend payers. They are growth companies. So they are not paying back the shareholder, but they are growing. We have about 18% here, and this is T. Rowe Price, large cap growth. Slide down, year to date, up over 26%. Wow. Look at the 1-year number. It's just, oh my gosh, wild.
Look at 22.
Right, look at 22, 30, down 35. Right, in the last 12 months, we've gotten almost 40%. 40%, 1 year. And the 10 years about 17%. Okay, so you can see that we need both of these. We need the value manager with dividends, and then we need this high growth. Turn the page and I'll stop. I know this is a lot of pages. There in the bottom left, these are your high growth companies that are not dividend payers, such as Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Meta, Alphabet. These are companies that you've heard of that are mainly technology and communications companies. Wow, that's amazing. Almost 40% in the last 12 months. Okay, and I know that was a lot of numbers, and if you have trouble sleeping tonight, you might have this by your bedside and look at those numbers. Yeah. Or balancing your checkbook. They say you're supposed to do that.
Only thing I'm worried about is because of the massive growth this last year is, we've seen it so many times. you know, and that's,
That's what that is trying to curb. We don't want to go too fast, but I tell you, there is a lot of money waiting to go in on the sidelines. Because interest rates have been so high, and that's why the Fed is gently stepping down. You know, we had a step down last month of just a half. We're anticipating a quarter next month, so they're you know, you hear a soft landing. Because wage numbers were so good. So they do not want our economy to overheat again. So that's why they are keeping it a slow rate of going down. I'm just gonna have to be patient, but,
it's a fine.
it is,
fiber to
right,
go on.
right, and wage numbers were higher than what they expected, so. So you may know this, but really what the Fed is trying to do is they don't want the economy to overheat. They want to control borrowing. Consumer and corporate. So we don't want it to overheat, borrow, and then that would be another catastrophe. So that's really what their task is. And then with wages being higher than what they thought, you know, they might be stepping down even slower. Okay, well, these next few pages are something totally different. I know that was a lot what I just did, but this is something that Harry alluded to, and this is a function of all of these local plans. Get something like this. It's really a thermometer of how they are doing. By Mayor. Yeah. Of some of the health of the plan. And this is a really good page. What is the funded percent? And so that means what are your assets compared to your liabilities? And with all of the assumptions, the state says that you are 71% funded. All right, and to be sound, and Harry mentioned this earlier, to be sound, you need to be 97. Okay, but so we're 71, but nothing to get alarmed. Yeah.
Shows it's high risk.
Yeah, right. But we know what they continue to jimmy with the assumptions, remember?
Yeah, we tried, there was one time that we actually tried to get the state to show us how the actuary figured out how they did their stuff,
Yeah,
and they never would.
well,
really.
so your liabilities look worse here because of the way that they figure it. So here's what they do. They give you only a 5% rate of assumption. But you guys know you're making 8 per year, but they only give you 5. So that means you don't have as much liability as what they're saying. It's because they limit you to only seeing or being able to use 5% when you really have been making 8. So what they've done is every plan must assume the 5. They don't give any plans benefit of what they actually make. See what I mean? So that makes your liabilities look more. So you really are higher than 71, but because they limit you to 5. Now look at your 10-year average, almost 7%. I guarantee you that's a higher number than most plans. Then the third number, your recommended contribution is 68%. And that just means that they look at your assets and then what the millage is. And they're just saying that's 68%. So they would just like to see the millage higher. Well, we're not going to do that, but that's just how because a lot of plans are 0 because they don't have a millage. Then we have no danger of crossover. And that just means we don't have a danger of not being able to pay these 17 folks. Okay, next page. This is really interesting. It gives us a historical perspective of our millage amounts for the last 10 years and our benefits for the last 10 years. So I know these numbers are small, you're gonna need your reading glasses, but the left side of the page is 2023. We took in a millage of about $248,000. And then slide to the right, that was back to 2014. Look, only not even 200,000. So we really have improved in the millage, going from 200 to 250.
Well, considering in 10 years, we've gone up 50,000 and considering how much the city's grown. I
Right,
mean, that's really, and
Right.
property values have gone up.
right,
So I mean, that's not a lot of, really not a lot of money.
right, no. But it has improved.
I mean, it's improved. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
better going the other way.
Right,
But when you look at the whole picture of how much the city's grown,
Mhm.
how much property values have gone, and in 10 years, our millage is only, gross millage has only gone up 50.
Right, no, you're right.
So, it's not much.
No. Steady rise. But
Yeah, it's
Yep.
better than a sharp stick at the
Yeah.
end. But
then the next page, the next line is your monthly benefits. So 2023, we paid out $463,000. Okay, and that's for all benefits to everybody for the year, but slide to the right. In 2014, we were only paying out 331. So we know we've had some benefit increases, thank goodness.
Yeah.
In fact, the next page, we can look at which years we had those. Okay, next page. This is just looking at your market value. It has slowly gone up. Also from 2019 to 2013, 2019 to 2023. From about 3.8 million to about 4.1 million. And this is market value. At the end of 2023. Then this next page is the funded percents listed. Oh gosh, yep, by year. So far right. Hold it. Harry, I feel you. Caffeine abuse. Harry spilled his coffee. Sorry, you all.
Your ground.
Yeah.
My top would stayed on it. It was all right. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Okay. So far right lists your funded percents all the way back to 2001. Which is pretty interesting. So I mentioned you're about 71% at the end of 2023, but you can slide up from there and look at the different values. And then on the left-hand column, look, I've highlighted the asterisks. So we've been able to have benefit increases. And I just highlighted 3 there for you, 2018, 2020, and 2022. Now here's the caveat. I know we always want to look for when we can do that again. But we just need to have a bigger funded percent. So the PRB, they want to see that be 90 to start the process. So, but not to fear too much because look how much you went up. You went up, about a little over 7% in 1 year. So mortality tables will help get that number there, plus market values. So market values and mortality, everybody gets a year older each year, of course, and that helps on the liability. So we're going to inch up there, it might take us a couple years to get to 90, and also, any kind of attrition on the plan would help too.
What?
Any kind of attrition on the plan, Of course, we don't like to think about that, but that's, that is a factor. So we are always keeping an eye on that. Okay, then page 13, this is the last page, and then you guys are warriors for sticking with me. So there's a longer packet. This is a look at the age groups and what they are receiving. The age bands. So you have, for example, one person 85 and over, one person 80 to 84, 7 people 65 to 69. So this just stratifies the ages into bands. So the largest group is in the 65 to 69 age. And then it totals the benefits paid to all of those over the year was $463,000. And then keep sliding down. That's made up of 11 retirees, 4 disableds, and 2 survivors. So that's how we get to our 17 number. So you guys are going strong. Going strong. I mean, that's 11 and 4. That's 15 retirees.
Yeah, we have 15 firefighters.
That's a large number. I think that's the largest that I work with. And then, we just don't want to go down to 4. What happens at 4.
Yeah,
Sloppy.
Mhm.
floppy takes over.
Right. So we're far from that.
And that's for 4 firefighters, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So 4 of the 15.
as long as we have 4 still kicking and screaming, we set it board.
That's it, as long as we set a quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great thing.
You're a pretty young group. 65 to 69 is your largest.
I
That's
just moved
young.
out of that.
Oh, did ya?
Yeah, I just hit 70.
I'm getting
You just
close.
hit 70.
I'm close.
Be September.
So,
I'm feeling different though. It's all attitude.
yes. Oh, wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody have any questions?
Hanging in there so far.
All right.
Did very well for us.
I have,
Mhm.
I sit there and look at this steady, it just, the Dow just, well, let's say record highs and
Mhm.
everything else is, there's gotta be a correction before too much longer. I know you said there's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines, but I just can't see that this can keep going the way it is.
Well, the reason that we've had an increase for the last 2 years in the growth markets is really software and AI and those type of growth companies have really hit hard. Have hit it. So we've had kind of organic growth, if you can understand what I mean by that. We've had organic growth without much more money added from the sidelines that wasn't already there. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because interest rates have been so high, that people keep their money off the table. So I think, Harry, that what was the reason for the last correction? COVID. Something like that could happen. Yes. But I think that after COVID is after a sharp worldwide event like that, there's always going to be inflation, always throughout time. If you look at any famine in any time period in our whole world's history, there's always inflation after. Then the inflation has to be tamed. Well, that's what the Fed does. That's why they had to spike it for, what did they went up 10 times in 2022? It took 1 year to get up that high. So that's what the Fed is for. It tames inflation. And a lot of people have, there's varying views of what should be done, but that is why the Fed is for events like that.
Yeah, what
Mhm.
predominantly in all the years past, to me, this was kind of backwards because back then, to curb inflation, you lowered the interest rate. But now all of a sudden they raised it. It seems to me like it was kind of backwards.
No, it's actually, it always, so the reason for hiking rates is to prevent corporations and people from borrowing too much and getting overheated.
Overstimulating the economy.
So no, actually, what inflation is always going up in interest rates to curb it. To try to curb it, to stop it from rising. Too much.
I remember back when during the Jimmy Carter administration,
Yeah.
you could draw 10% on a passport account. It didn't seem like so, when the interest rate was
Mhm.
high.
Right, but see, back then it was double what it is now, or
Oh, yeah.
because triple, because think about the borrowing rate now is, since they lowered it that half a step, went from 5.25 to 4.75. Well, back in Carter era, wasn't it 17? I mean, so that's triple.
It's 20.
Yeah, right. So yeah, 17, 20. So that's triple, quadruple what we are. So yes, that's why that happened there. So we are trying to, the Fed is trying to prevent that from happening. So, and it's tricky. I mean, and these are humans making these decisions. So we can only look at history to tell us that, but we're going to be stepping down, gently. But, what a lot of people argue with even having that half step in September. They say it should have been at 0.25, but I mean, are we splitting hairs, and then next month is expected at order. So we're just gonna be doing that for probably a year or two.
I don't
And,
think
and,
it's
and
gonna have-
enticing more money to come out.
lowering this interest rate, I don't think it's gonna have much effect on the housing market, just to be honest with you.
No.
Not here, maybe.
Oh,
some-
no, no,
not
not,
here.
no, never
Not
here, no,
No,
not here.
Well, and we're really fortunate that, we've, through the years, we've looked at, we're so diversified out. And we've always been, if something did take, something did go down and something else, and it makes a big difference, as long as we stay in which we are around 8%.
Yeah, I mean,
When you
that's,
make 8% on your money, you're doing
yeah.
good. So.
I know I got an eye raise from a member in our crowd. She was very surprised that you all are getting 8% a year. That is not, that is hard to achieve. It's
Yeah.
not easy.
Well, it's because we're so diversified.
Right. And you have about 59% geared to equities. So you're a bit higher than a middle. You all are taking.
The people that we have in the equity is, a lot of it's like big cap stock,
Right,
which makes a big
Yeah,
difference
yeah.
too. We don't have nothing that's these
right,
really speculative,
right.
and we've always
Done that.
been that way. And because of that, we've, and we have, you have, and we worked, there's been several times when we say, no, we've got to do something different.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think this board, I've been proud of this board all through the years is we've really, I think we've done a lot better than a lot of things have.
Yes. A lot of plans are not making 8% a year. But you all, also you pay attention, you come to the meetings, you are attentive, and there's a lot of times that's not true of other plans, so let's just keep going. Keep going. Any other things? I just have one household item, for Harry and James are the new signers now. After Jeff retired. Jeff's doing okay? Jeff Pratt?
I guess.
Yeah, you see him. So James and Harry are new signers, and then we just have one of your members is changing bank, so I'm gonna have those two sign for the new instructions. And that's all I have.
Anybody else?
Anybody, or Molly or James on screen, you have any questions? Looks like, oh, Molly fell.
James, do you have anything else?
No, I had the time today and it worked out, so I just thought I'd jump on to appreciate it.
Thank you. Anytime, please come back.
Do I hear anybody make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign for no. Motion is adjourned. Motion passes and we are adjourned. Thank you, Ms.
All
Carey.
right, thank you all. Thank you always for being so.
Okay.
Ma'am, do you have any other questions about anything?
Gilbert, and